Welcome to another episode, new episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 385. After taking a few weeks off, just my schedule has been busy, particularly during this time of year. Uh, couldn't do the show live, but we are back after a roughly 3 week hiatus. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me, the usual cast of characters, Gail from NY Fights and NYFights.com and communitiesdigitalnews.com. Daniel from Four Boxing News, and the Inscriber. Fingers crossed. Hope to have a guest we hadn't had on the show in a long time. Hope to have that person on doing a live recording. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, blog, site discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, we'll talk about it. Bottom line is, if it pertains to the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out any and all information, please go to the site, p4pboxingreport.com. If you wish to email us, you can do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxing.com. On the site, if you scroll up and down and navigate, you can find the links to where you can find Pound for Pound Box Report all over social media, links to the YouTube channel, links to the Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, IG page, links to where you can find the podcast on all RSS distributed platforms, be it Anchor, be it Apple Podcasts, be it uh, Spotify, Google Podcasts, just about everywhere with the exception of Amazon. You can find Pound for Pound Box Report. Also on the site, links to where you can donate. Got a Cash Me and PayPal donation links. Let donation be the best nation. If you can spare some change during this time of year while you're getting your holiday shopping, or took advantage of, if you got anything left over from taking advantage of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, really appreciate if you shoot some coin our way, be it $1, $2, $5. It would not matter to us. It'll help the overall production behind the scenes. If you listen to us live or at a later date on YouTube, please hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button. It'll get all that is welcome, and it will get us all close. It will get the show closer to being monetized. Last but certainly not least, if for fitness lovers, fitness enthusiasts, please check out the link that I have on the site to Beachbody on Demand. Now that you've eaten your turkey, your dressing, all your holiday, your Thanksgiving food, and hope everybody had a good holiday. Excuse me, I was eating right before I was doing the show. My apologies for that. Anyway, if you're looking to get out those extra pounds, please check out Beachbody on Demand. Take advantage of the 2 week trial at the very least. Beachbody on Demand fitness goals for all your suitable fitness interests. If you're looking to lift weights, I suggest you check out Lift 4 or Lift More. If you want to really challenge yourself, I suggest 6 weeks of the work, bar blend, morning meltdown, so many varieties. The old P90X and Insanity series, they still work. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, please check out 10 rounds, excuse me. That is a 6 week program, 5 workouts per week. 3 of those workouts, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of weightlifting. But again, please check out Beachbody on Demand for if you're looking to get yourself together and keep yourself together during this holiday season. Let's get things going. Recapping the fights. Let's start in um, the place I still affectionately call StubHub. I know it's called Dignity Health Sports, whatever. Anyway, it was a card there on Fight TV. The headliner of that was some consolidation here when it comes to the 140-pound division, as we all know. Start the show with ladies first. Gail, Daniel, as we all know. When Josh Taylor decided to vacate 3 of the belts, he was undisputed champion, kind of opened up the division. You had a fight for the vacant WBC title over the weekend. Regis Prograis fighting Jose Zepeda. And I have to say, Gail, the reason I titled this particular episode in the way that I did, Beware of Rougarou, is because how he performed during this fight. Stopped Zepeda in the 11th rounds. After the first round, which Zepeda landed a couple of shots, left hand specifically. Rougarou, he took over. He took charge and he dominated the action. I only gave Zepeda 2 rounds total, and that was kind of being generous. I did some of the things I saw from Regis Prograis in this fight. I have not seen. The the jab was more consistent. The upper body movement and his conditioning seemed better at this stage of his career at age 33. A lot of fans remember him in his losing effort against Josh Taylor, World Boxing Super Series final in 2019, and he kind of faded over the last in the championship rounds. It wasn't the case here. Terrific performance by Regis Prograis. He's now WBC champion. He says he's on a mission to conquer the division, and based on this performance, he's going to be a problem for any and everybody at 140 pounds.
Well, that's for sure. We need to take him at his word after what we saw Saturday. Really a good performance against a very tough opponent in Sean Zepeda, a guy known for being able to take a shot. Although he has been knocked down multiple times in various fights, the guy always gets up, carries on, and if you recall the fight with Ivan Baranchek, even after multiple knockdowns, came back to win when we kind of left him for done. In this case, Prograis was far too overwhelming. Zepeda carried on. He's a brave guy. He's a go out on your shield kind of guy. But there was just nothing he had to offer that could push Prograis back or push him off. And what really impressed me and was noticeable between the two of them is how loose and relaxed Prograis was the entire fight. Not just the hands down, not just the, he had his moments of playing around and enjoying himself, but he was so relaxed to the point that in your mind, when you are physically that loose, everything slows down in front of you and you are mentally able to gather all the information you need to physically react in real time. By contrast, Zepeda just looked tight. I would almost say stiff. There was something going on with him that I really haven't seen in some of these good performances. And I know a lot of people just sort of brushed off his minor car accident a few days before the fight. I have to wonder, did it shake him up? Even a fender bender that leaves everyone walking away, can rattle your cage enough that you're sort of out of sorts, you're sore. I had to wonder about that. Nevertheless, it was a really brave effort on Zepeda's part, and he made it, in an interesting fight, not completely competitive, but he gave Prograis a lot to work against, so credit to him, and I think all of us would welcome seeing him again. And Regis said after the fight to Zepeda, you were my toughest opponent, thanked him, very classy thing to do. But yeah, Prograis is a problem. And welcome back.
Indeed. I'll go to you, Daniel. Gail mentioned how relaxed Prograis was. And when you're like that, things are clearer. Things are slower. You can see everything. Was this a case that he was just in what they call for athletes a zone?
In many ways, yes. In many ways, he was a bit in the zone, and I think he was more focused considering what happened to him in the Taylor fight, where he did fade in later rounds, but if you can make the case that he arguably would have won that fight, or actually did win it because it was that close when the fight against Taylor. So he knew how close he was to being the man at 140, and he did keep himself busy a little bit in between those, like little fights here and there, which earned him this opportunity. And you could tell he wasn't going to go in reckless. He wasn't going to go in just trying to score the knockout. He kept his footwork tight. He used his jab. He maintained distance. And landed enough shots early on against Zepeda where he left Zepeda with almost no choice but to go balls to the wall in the later rounds, like in 9th, 10th, the 10th, like arguably being Zepeda's best round. And that was his unfortunate last stand for Zepeda, because then Rougarou recovered and closed out the show in the 11th. Then the referee didn't even bother to count. He just waved it off as soon as Zepeda was on the ground. That's how much of a good performance that Rougarou put there. And whether people like it or not, he's been a problem for a while. There's a reason why it was tough for him to get fights at a championship levels, because people know this is the type of performance that he can provide. But good on him. He's a 2-time champion at 140 pounds. And with the division opening up, you could definitely see him being the one to consolidate the bets again.
Now let's make a comparative analysis here when it comes to Prograis vis-a-vis the rest of the division. As I mentioned, the division opened up once Taylor decides to vacate all the titles. Josh Taylor, of course, is going to fight a rematch against Catterall February of next year. Prograis' schedule as of this recording is kind of set, pretty much set. His next fight is going to be against Jose Ramirez, who in an interesting irony, I should say, Ramirez, who's former unified champion, he had to bow out because he was getting married and whatnot, and he just didn't want to have that commitment to getting married and whatnot in and around the same time of this fight was supposed to take place. His marriage was supposed to be in and around the same time of this particular fight, right? And then assuming that Prograis, the winner of Prograis and Ramirez, is going to fight the winner of Teofimo Lopez and Sando Martin, those two will fight on December 10th. You got Puello, who's WBA champ. Matias, I forgot the name of the fighter he's going to fight with a vacant IBF belt. In short, the division, it's there for the taking. I know that Taylor was undisputed champion, right? But there's a lot to be desired in the minds of many observers and pundits like ourselves in the aftermath of that fight with Catterall earlier this year, where a lot of people felt that Catterall deserved the win. Looking at the landscape here, Daniel and Gail, I mentioned that he's a problem. Is Regis Prograis right now, based on what you saw from him in this fight and based on what you've seen from the names I mentioned, is Prograis the best in the division?
That's going to be tough to gauge. He's in the running, but at least in my eyes, I have to see how Teofimo looks in this division, because we know how prepared he was and how he wound up beating Lomachenko to become undisputed in lightweight. Is he going to have the same drive, or is he going to have the same focus, or are the issues that ultimately wound up costing him that mantle against Kambosos going to creep up? That's probably the main variable that you're starting to see in this division coming up, because otherwise, yeah, just based on experience, based on the caliber of opponents people have fought, you have to say Rougarou a little bit by default, but the main person you can say, but right now, Teofimo.
Well, that's why you have to have the fights, is to determine this. Well, I don't know that I'd put Teofimo Lopez above Prograis. I'm still feeling a little shaky about Teofimo. Good news is we're going to see him in about 10 days. Now let's see what he's got to offer. So once we see him against Sandor Martin, we'll judge a little better. I would like to see Prograis and Jose Ramirez, and that, I think, would give us a very good picture of where it stands. But again, I will acknowledge recency bias. Prograis is the last guy among all these competitors we saw in the ring. But he was so composed. I felt like he only was fighting on maybe 70-80% of his capacity. He wasn't having to step on the gas whatsoever. It was, I'm sure it wasn't easy. And he did see the effects of the fight on his face. He wasn't unmarked, but he did make it look easy, and that takes tremendous skill.
Hopefully get Daniel back. I don't know what happened, but he's no longer here. I'll see what's up with him. Shout out to Olaf the Almighty, longtime listener of the show. If you have any questions, comments, Olaf, please do so. Let me see if I can get Daniel back while we continue to move on to go on to talk more bouts on the undercard of this particular fight, Gil. Outstanding women's bout that took place at 108 pounds, right? As a battle of two unified champions. Wrote a preview for this for Three Kings Boxing. Please check out Three Kings Boxing, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to the entire Three Kings Boxing staff. 2K, aka Prodigy of Boxing, who's the head of 3KB. You have Bo, head of media relations, senior writer. You have myself, a senior writer. Other senior writers, Bakari, Jarrell, aka Big Cool, does all the editing behind the scenes. I wrote a preview and prediction of this bout. For this bout, Bermudez defending her unified WBO 108-pound titles against unified strawweight champion Valle. Valle in her last bout, September, unified WBO IBF belts at 105 pounds. And even matchup going in, I see Daniel's back. I'll go to him first. Even matchup this was, Daniel. Hard to differentiate the winner. I'm probably going to be in a minority here. I had Bermudez winning by a couple of points. I just think that she did more effective work in terms of staying outside and whatnot. Valle threw harder punches. She shook Bermudez. I think it was round 7, 8, whatever. But I just felt, particularly the early rounds, she built up a lead, in my opinion. And while Valle rallied, I just felt it wasn't enough. I'm not going to be mad at those who felt that Valle won. Valle ultimately got the decision. Here's the question on the table. You can talk about the fight if you want. There are options here for Valle. She could fight a rematch with Evelin Bermudez, but you also have one of our favorite fighters, Senicia Estrada, who chimed in on social media after the fight. Valle says that as super bad Estrada, that's her preferred fight if she had to choose her next opponent. Should they go straight to super bad? Should they go a rematch here with Bermudez? Both of them I really like. Both fights I really like, excuse me. So yeah, your breakdown of the fight as well as what could be upcoming for Yokasts Valle.
This was a very, very fun fight. It's one of the fights that makes me, like I said, be an advocate for 3-minute rounds. Because you could tell in the later rounds, that's when it started getting really good. Now, the main thing with Valle is that she actually was able to get in the middle later rounds against the height and reach of Bermudez, and which was her main advantage. And she did do enough inside, unfortunately, and Bermudez didn't do enough adjusting to maintain that advantage that she had, where I could see the decision being fair. I can also see how people can say Bermudez won because of the early rounds. That being said, if it's going to be a business decision, you have to go against Senicia. Yeah, you're gonna be the underdog. Sinicia's gonna be the prohibitive favorite. You're not likely going to win, but you're probably gonna get a better payday against a rematch with Bermudez, because we at the promoter or the person that presented this card. Now, You can say you can try to put it, say, have it promote a Golden Boy going the zone against in the fight would be Bermudez, but at the same time, that's going to require still a good amount of money. The money is where people have the money is going to be with Sinicia, and that's probably going to be the better fight to make at the moment because while Valle did win the fight, there were some instances where it's shown that she probably still has a little bit of work and probably could lose a rematch against Bermudez, particularly if they have to fight on friendlier ground to Bermudez. I would, if I'm Golden Boy, if I'm the management team, especially since you didn't leave, like Golden Boy and Sinicia didn't leave on bitter terms. They just left on terms saying we're not going to work with each other now. We might in the future. Why not now? Because we know the other fight that's waiting. We know the other Golden Boy fighter that's waiting for Sinicia, even though I think most of us can agree Sinicia would beat again. But Marlon's there. So if you're Golden Boy, you know what call to make.
Your thoughts, Gail?
It's the money fight for Valle to make, marquee fight. I'm not sure that I'd do it next. There's always a risk taking a sort of a victory lap kind of fight. I think that might be a smart thing for her to do now that she's got the belts. It always boosts the fighter's confidence. And there's a saying in boxing that it improves your performance, 10%. That'd be enough for her to beat just about everybody. I'd like her to see her take that out for a spin one more time so that going into any fight with Estrada, she's that much more competitive. Because Daniel, I agree. I think Estrada would wipe the floor with her. I mean, plain and simple. She would earn the biggest payday of her career without question. She could earn a little more if she polishes her resume just the tiniest bit, makes it seem very competitive, makes it seem like the buildup is, really, really something. It would be a damned entertaining fight either way. They're both come forward fighters. They're both power punchers for their size. I mean, it sounds funny to talk about women who weigh 105 pounds being power punchers. They are. And this is just so good for what's been a great year for women's boxing to see yet another competitive division. So we'll wait and see. Valle is under Golden Boy Promotions. Estrada is a former Golden Boy fighter, now working with Top Rank, as most of you listeners probably know. And they work together pretty well these days. So it's a very makeable fight. Putting it in Southern California, as the co-main or even perhaps the main event in a small venue, that's a draw in Southern California, a serious draw. Top Rank could also bring some of their prospect fighters, as they have a couple of times this year, including a fight they did in Temecula, California, where they had Arnold Barboza, Richard Torres Jr., I can't recall if Keyshawn Davis was on that card. Stephen Shaw was actually brought into that card. There's some really good options to put this fight together with a lot of solid support to get eyeballs on it. A lot of good options for Valle. Bermudez gave a great account of herself, and she absolutely won the early rounds in the fight. I did think Valle brought it back to her side, but just barely. And if they wanted to do a rematch, I wouldn't be hating on that either.
Absolutely, like I said, I'm not mad at both fights. Estrada, who's WBA champion at 105 pounds, she's talked about ruling things from 105 to 112. Valle has talked about wanting to unify the division at 108. Whether this fight at 105, excuse me, whether Valle and Estrada fight at 108 or 105. At this point, it seems like that's the fight to be made in that weight area from strawweight to even flyweight. There, I said you mentioned Marlon and Spaz. I still say that she's talking just because she says that she would love to fight Estrada again. Does she really want to do it? I question that. But overall, good fight. The future is there's a there are options for Valier. Number one being Estrada. Let's hope that fight gets made next year, as you mentioned, Gail. 2022 has very much been the year of the woman in boxing for sure. And as Bo and 2K over at Three Kings Boxing have said numerous times, um, on the podcast, on Three Kings Boxing podcast, they have been really running the sport. They've carried the sport this year. I completely agree with that 100%. Let's move on. Look, another fight on this card I wanted to discuss quickly, and I'm going to open it up for everyone here. Bakhodir Jalolov, who is 2020, who is the defending Olympic gold medalist, right? He beat Richard Torres for the gold last year in Tokyo. Fought Curtis Harper. Okay, he stopped him in 4. Yeah, we know that was going to happen. My question is, Jalolov is already ranked number 1 by the IBF, right? Even though he's only had, 12 fights? Based on what you've seen of this dude, Gail, Daniel, where would you rank him? Is he deserving of that number 1 ranking? I know that what's the dude name? Big Baby Anderson has talked about possibly wanting to fight him and whatnot. He's on the quick rise, right? The talent is there, but I'm watching this fight and I'm watching him. I'm like, if they're going to rank him this high, is he ready for any of the champions? No. Is he ready for top 5, top 10 heavyweights in the world? That's more of a fair question here. Your thoughts?
I think we're rushing things just a little. Um, a guy with 12 professional fights, yeah, he looks good. He's big. He's incredibly mobile and fit for his size. He's 6'7", but appears to be anyway in phenomenal condition. It's a kind of an amazing thing to call a guy 6'7", weighs 250 plus, nimble, but he is, and he has, in his own way, the kind of weapon that took Deontay Wilder as far as it did. In Jalolov's case, he's a southpaw, and his straight left hand is like a bazooka shot straight forward. It is a problem. But it takes a lot more than that to compete at the highest levels. I would like to see him, as you mentioned, fighting some of the other guys that are just below that top tier, some of these other big guys. I'm not even sure that he has enough tools to take care of somebody like Jared Anderson, who's had a lot more time to develop. But Jalolov is one of these guys with a distinguished amateur career, Olympic gold medalist. He's the man that defeated American Richard Torres for the silver medal. And Bo! Oh my God! Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. Distracted by the long-awaited reappearance of Bo. Bo, I'm going to finish my thought and then just sit back and enjoy. Jalolov needs more work in the ring. Let's keep that man busy next year. He should not fight twice next year. He should fight four times. Get him busy. Get him in front of more people. He's a crowd pleaser with that knockout ratio, 100% at this point. But he needs more experience as a professional, bottom line. Of course, we also said that about guys like Lomachenko. So, yeah, what do I know? He is fun to watch. He'll be welcome anywhere.
After not being on this show for a good minute. Um, Long time listeners of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, they know this brother. I mentioned Three Kings Boxing all the time and how he's the head of media relations over there and senior writer. Ladies and gentlemen, he's back. The OG of 3KB, Bo of Three Kings Boxing, joins us this evening. Going to get you into the discussion here. Going to go back and get your opinion on some few fights here. But we're talking about Bakhodir Jalolov, who got that stop Curtis Harper in 4. The question on the table here, Bo, is he's ranked number 1. Is that ranking warranted? I'm not even going to talk about him being ready for the likes of Fury or a Fury, a Wilder, a Joshua, a Usyk in that group, right? My question is, given his ranking, given his high ranking, is he ready for top 10 guys, right? You got him and Hergovich, who's also ranked number 1 by another section and body, right? How would you compare those two? How do you see Jalolov, given his high ranking? How do you see him vis-a-vis the heavyweight division?
Jalolov is a lot better than Herkovich. His IQ is better. His mobility is better. His boxing is better. Um, he has that Larry Holmes type jab that stops you cold, right? When he hits you with it. Here's the thing about those guys, and I think the reason why, because there's a guy over at Top Rank Heavy. I think his name is Arslanbek. And here's the thing about those guys: they spend so much time on that circuit that when they come into the professional ranking, because of the time they spent in that circuit, they're automatically thrusted to where they start fighting guys and start becoming ranked. Jalolov is one of those guys who, when you look at him, he has the right tools, right? When you look at from 5 down in the heavyweight division, I could see him beating some of those guys ranked from 5 down, or at the very least, um, uh, having a good showing against those guys 5 down. Like I could see Jalolov giving me a better showing against Zhang Zhang than I saw Philip Porkovich give me. Um, I would like to see him tested against Martin Bakoli. We saw what Martin Bakoli did to your boy Tony Yoka, so that would be a good fight for him. So, even fight some former world champions. He could, fight Joseph Parker. Let's see what you can do against Joseph Parker. Uh, but from a talent standpoint, he appears to have everything that you need. He's more far along, in my opinion, than Philip Horkovich. And then there's another guy at top rank has. I think his name is Nita Hernandez. Big, tall, heavyweight. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's his name. His name is like Mereless, Mireless, Mereless. He's a big time heavyweight that they got over at top rank. And I think Jalolov is beyond him. So, also when you win the gold medal, you automatically thrusted into the limelight. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of something that they're doing. Like same thing they're doing with Galal Yafai, except I think Jalolov is a better fighter than Jalal Yafai. I think Jalal Yafai actually should have lost his last fight. So being ranked number 1, no, I agree with you. He shouldn't be ranked number 1 by one of the organizations. But at the same time, now that he is number 1, it's sink or swim time now. Now you got to put him in there against a tough competitor, whether he's ready for it or not, because he has the ranking that warrants it.
Quick assessment, Bo. Quick breakdown of a couple of fights we talked about before you got on here. One is Prograis, his win over Zepeda, his stoppage win over Zepeda, and Valle. Your thoughts on her win over Bermudez? Should she go straight to a fight against Superbad, or should she try to run it back against Bermudez?
She should wait and see what happens between Kim Clavel and Jessica Neri Plata. That fight actually got canceled, by the way. Go to Three Kings Boxing for that. That fight got postponed into January, which kind of messed up because now she's in a tight spot, right? Because the WBA gave her 10 days to decide what division she wants to remain champion in. Honestly, she should wait and go for that win and become undisputed. And here's why. Um, and I get fighting Sinisa Estrada. Am I sure that Oscar De La Hoya would make that fight? Because Tanisha Estrada did leave him and she did go over the top rank. Would Oscar De La Hoya be willing to give that scout to Tanisha Estrada knowing that she left? He wouldn't want to give her that scout right away. So, in my opinion, for when it comes to Yokasts Valle, you might as well go for your legacy. And your legacy would be wait to see who the winner is of Clavo versus Plata. I think she can beat either one of them. And then she's undisputed. This way, your stock is worth more when you try to. So when you sit at that table, hopefully by this time, you'll have a unified champion down there in Tanisha Estrada. Go down there and grab your belt, or go back down there and capture unified again, and then you can fight Tanisha Estrada. But I think she should go for undisputed.
And thoughts on Prograis and his win over Zepeda. My argument is, one, he's a problem. Prograis, the way he fought against Zepeda, he's a problem from anyone. And based on what we saw over the weekend, right? Can an argument made that as of right now, in comparison to what we've seen from the rest of the lot recently, could the argument be made that Rougarou is the best at 140?
It's funny you say that, right? Because once upon a time that was Josh Taylor, but after his performance against Jack Catterall, that kind of like I think when you look at the landscape, right? Win or lose, Josh Taylor's gonna leave. Uh, you look at Jack Catterall and you figure, hey, maybe Jack Catterall will be a problem for him. The problem is Jack Catterall has stamina issues. We saw that in the Josh Taylor fight. He's gonna have to fix that. Um, of course, then you have Subaru Mateus and Jeremiah Ponce. If Mateus wins, that's an excellent fight, but I think he beats him because he has better defense. That irky jerky movement, and then also his footwork, his ability to hit where you're going to be instead of where you're at. As defense, those are the things that gives a lot of guys trouble. So, like you said, Williams Zepeda is not a bad fight. Like Williams Zepeda is B plus, maybe even A minus level fighter, and we saw what Rougarou made him look like, right? Um, but he has the mindset, he has the ability, and when you just look at that division, that division 140 is reminding me of what 135 should have looked like. You got all these talented guys, and you want them to fight each other. Well, 140 looks like that's a division where you might get those fights. You might see Super Matias taking on Rougarou. If Teofimo Lopez grabs him a belt, he's already talking about that fight. The only guy I feel sorry for is that dude. I think his name is Alberto Puello. He's a champion. I feel sorry for him because he's just waiting for somebody to just come take that belt up off of him, and I feel bad. For him,
yeah. He's
I feel bad for him.
a level below.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. And I just want to say that it was good. I turned on YouTube one day, and I was stunned when I saw the beautiful Miss Gail on the show talking. I immediately went through my phone and had to hit her up and say, "Hey, I see you. I was there watching you. You cheating on me, but I'm watching you."
I missed your call. It broke my heart, but thank you so much. You're a good man. You're a good man. I don't believe what you say. You're a good man.
Indeed, and we may talk about Rougarou right now. Well, not right now, but during the news segment because he's been talking a lot. Currently, right now, please go to Three Kings Boxing. Bo, I'm just letting you know shortly. I'm putting up a video of Rougarou talking some stone cash. You know what? Right now on IG Live. That's going to be up shortly. I'm putting it up while I'm doing the show, but we'll talk about Rougarou during the news segment. Let's get to some more of these fights. Let's get to more of these fights breakdown. I mean, I'm going to leave this up to you. Dillian Whyte, whoever wants to discuss it. Dillian Whyte versus Jermaine Franklin. He got the win by majority decision. I wasn't impressed. The performance overall was just It was Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not moved. Someone help move me when it comes to this breakdown of this fight. Because to me, it just was a fight and that's it.
I would love to help you, Mike, but I was never into sumo wrestling, so.
Bo, Daniel, anything?
There's a little bit for everybody. Hey, this Dillian Whyte, lovely man. he's a domestic draw. He's a domestic draw. And, the British fans will pay to see him. They love him. They don't care that he's on the downside of his career. They don't care about the losses. He's an acquired taste outside the UK. He really is. But let's shift the focus to Jermaine Franklin, who gave a damn good accounting of himself when nobody expected him to do it. He came awfully close to winning that fight. Just like we were talking about, a lot of us thinking that Prograis beat Jack Taylor. A lot of us think that Franklin beat Dillian Whyte. And there was not a robbery because it was close.
Mm-hmm.
Home cooking, hometown advantage, maybe. But Jermaine Franklin's stock went up. Even with the loss, he'll get some more opportunities. I'd like to see him tighten up his fitness just a little bit, but he's got what it takes. I hope that he walks away encouraged and not discouraged. Yeah, Olaf, absolutely right. He needs to slim down a little. I think it would improve his speed tremendously. And if he can do that, he's far more dangerous. So I think he's got some upside. Hey, Dillian Whyte, if the British public is still paying to see him and he's still making money and his faculties are still with him, we can talk about that. I do have concern about the long life I would like to see him enjoy after boxing.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to help, but, that doesn't often stop a fighter. And he clearly loves it. So, there's nothing we're going to do about it. Is he going to earn a lot of pay-per-view money from this side of the Atlantic? No, he's just not.
You know what? It reminds me of
this comment here. Wait, let me read
Right.
this comment here because when I get the podcast, for those who are not checking this out live on YouTube and checking this out on other podcast outlets, when I finally eventually get this episode up, Olaf says in the chat that Franklin's a pretty slick combination / counterpuncher. If he can lose some weight, he could be a real contender. He also says that he has that Andy Ruiz body. I tend to agree with that. What was you going to say, Bo?
I was going to say the thing about this fight was that Franklin now he's got the experience, and a lot of times you need to take these fights because the experience factor, right? So now you got the experience. You've been in there with a top a former top tier title challenger. You fought in front of thousands and thousands of people, so the butterflies are going there. You now know that you even surprise yourself. So whatever level you believe you on, you have what you can build on. So I think overall for me, I look at like this was a good experience for him because, like Gail said, his stock is only going to go up because of his performance. I think now it's a situation of okay, start making the right moves and right decisions, put him in fight where what we saw against Dillian Whyte, we'll see more of that, and it turns into wins. And that's because he clearly showed, good chin when he puts his punches together. He has that, right? So, yeah. But I think like I was thinking like fight a guy like Adam Kalnaki, Chris Arreola, Robert Herlanis. Start fighting some of these guys right here, and as you start building them wins, that stock will start rising up for him even more.
Anything, Daniel?
Well, looking at this fight, it kind of tells you first, Dillian Whyte may be, unfortunately, one of these fighters that does fight to the level of his competition. This was mainly a domestic fight. Like I said, Franklin put himself in a very, very, very good account of himself. But this is what we're probably going to be seeing of Dillian Whyte. He is, in many ways, even though we're going to see him fight, the heir apparent to the position Dereck Chisora currently holds, which is good fighter, probably the better of the domestics in the UK, can compete at the European level, but he's just not there anymore when it comes to world caliber level. I do feel bad at all of the other fights that all of the times that he had to wait and wait and wait for the WBC shot. That ultimately, unfortunately, cost him. time we've probably never seen what the best of Dillian Whyte could have been as a interim or an actual champion. And it's tough to see, but those fighters like Del Boy's got an opportunity now against Fury. Those type of fighters are entertaining. They're gonna fill the halls that they're gonna be fighting with in the UK, and ultimately that's gonna be the tough draws for the next generation of Eastern European or even American fighters when they want to get international competition. That's going to be the tests that you're going to see him. That's what Dillian Whyte's probably going to become within the next 2 years.
Yeah. At the very least, Jermaine Franklin, he made a good account of himself, and he earned himself some more fights based off his performance. When it comes to Dillian Whyte, yeah, they're talking about a possible fight with Anthony Joshua early first quarter next year. Olaf also says here he calls Dillian Whyte Chisora 2.0. I can understand that. The question is, will he have as long as career as Chisora, keep getting big fights like Chisora? He also says about Dillian Whyte, he said, let's get Whyte versus Pulev. That's a slugfest. At this, I don't know what to make of Dillian Whyte, new trainer Buddy McGirt, so I'm going to reserve my judgment on a possible fight versus Pulev. On the surface, I'll give him the advantage of a Pulev, but I don't know. You mentioned your thoughts on Dillian Whyte. My question is he a faded force? Is he on his last legs? Coming off of the stoppage loss to Fury, didn't look good in this fight. I know he's working with a new trainer, but there was a point where he got banged with the right hand that buckled his legs, right? And say what you want about Jermaine Franklin, he should not be getting hurt by the likes of a Jermaine Franklin. He should not be getting hit as often as he did by the likes of Jermaine Franklin. So I wonder from a physical standpoint where he is. But yeah, we'll see where he goes. We'll see where he goes from here. Let's get to the news here. I mentioned Regis Prograis, right? And a lot of news has been popping off in the last few hours about Prograis. I mentioned he's been all over Instagram Live talking mess. Apparently him and Teofimo have been going back and forth. Him and Teofimo's dad been going back and forth. There's a whole bunch of mess here. There's a whole bunch of stuff here regarding Prograis. We talked about some fights during the show. I go to you, Gail, in the aftermath of the win versus Zepeda. News is broke right before we begin things here regarding that. Could you give some insight, please?
Actually, earlier today, Regis Prograis posted on his Twitter feed, and I believe on his Instagram feed as well, that the check he deposited on Monday for the fight, and he made the deposit in Los Angeles before going back home to Houston. Today it got returned for insufficient funds. How about that? His check from Marv Nation bounced. And we now hear that Charles Conwell's check bounced as well by their own reporting on social media. Now, Marv Nation is, screaming, fake news, that's not true. Well, honey, the check either cleared or it didn't. First of all, who's handing these guys paper checks to begin with in this day and age? What? I'll tell you what. You hand someone a paper check when you're trying to delay it clearing because you're trying to play the float for the cash. That's part of the reason. Somebody gets an instant electronic transfer. They know the money is there before they can open the car door and leave. So we all had wondered how in the world Marv Nation was going to be able to afford this fight, how much capital they had to have in the bank, because they weren't going to make it on the pay-per-view. They weren't going to make it on the ticket sales. StubHub is an absolutely phenomenal place to watch a fight. Yeah, I know it's called Dignity Health Sports Park, whatever. But it's November. It's in Southern California. We're all wussies. It's cold in there at night. Temperature does drop. It's all concrete. It's true. You got to have your lap robe and all that stuff figures in there. And, you know, it was a Thanksgiving weekend. So they sold about 4,000 tickets. How many of those were giveaways? I don't know. Probably most of them were paid, but still, 4,000 tickets, some big money purses, having to stand up the production from scratch. It looked pretty good. They did a good job. I'll give them that. But clearly their budget didn't quite pencil out to where they thought. And shame on these guys if indeed they handed these fighters checks without having the funds to back it up. You know, if you got to sit down with those guys and say, listen, we got to talk. I'll give you some of it now and some of it later. This is the danger of going with unproven promoters. You know, haven't these guys learned their lesson from the Triller incidents and the Rock Nation incidents and now the Mark Nation incidents? You know, and here we have Bud Crawford roaring up with another sort of unproven commodity. At least he is, in theory, getting half his money up front. But breaks my heart. These guys train their asses off, put on the performance. They do the work. They do their job in a very dangerous sport, and they're not getting paid. Irritates the hell out of me, in case you can't tell.
I think they tried saying something about like you said, they was like, oh no, it's not what everybody think. The problem was it was a new account, and the checks that tried to cash showed suspicious activity. And the thing about it is, you know, I think sometimes these PR people need PR people, or whoever's advising them, you know, they need smarter guys. Because if by now every human being has ever had a bank account, a new account, and even if it's a new account, it does not say insufficient funds. It may just say check can't cash or block check or whatever the case may be if it's a new account with suspicious activity, but it does not say insufficient funds. It means you got no money there. That's what insufficient funds mean. I think that the thing about this, and Gail, you actually hit it on the head, is the minute this was announced, it was a pay per view. That was a sign of failure, and here's the reason why. As much as we like Williams Zepeda, as much as we like Regis Prograis, nothing about Regis Prograis and Williams Zepeda says pay per view. Nothing about the undercard of that fight says pay per view, right? What says pay per view, like Eric Estrada and Roman Gonzalez 3, that says pay per view because we've seen it prior to, so we know what kind of action we're going to get from these guys, right?
Yeah.
You can't put a Regis Prograis and a Williams Zepeda together on a card and say, well, we're not selling a lot of tickets, so guess what? We'll make it a pay per view. Hopefully, we make the money on the back end. And I feel bad because Regis went through this with the WBSS tournament. Remember, he threatened to pull out twice in that tournament because, you know what I'm saying, they hadn't paid him his money or anything like that. So it's a bad sign. It's a bad look. And now you have the whole, like you said, Gail, the whole buyers beware. Now it's out there, right? It was a great fight, and you know, Regis. The only good thing out of it was he became a champion. But at the end of the day, when you give somebody a check that you know is not going to cash, you do it trying to buy yourself time. So if I give you this check and it don't cash, oh, you know what, man, it should be in there Friday, and you got to wait till Friday anyway because once you try to cash that check's no good. It has to be reissued. So it's like, hey, you know what, man, my bad. You know what, money ain't gonna be in there probably till Wednesday. Well, now you got to wait till Wednesday anyway, and that's initially what they wanted. They wanted to you to wait, but you write this check, the cash check doesn't cash. It's like, oh, the check gets rejected. Hopefully, the money goes in there the day you think it has to go in there. Now, on top of that, you got these fees and all these things you accumulate. So it's just a bad look. It's a bad sign in the sport of boxing when you have something like this happen to guys who go out there and give it their all for a very entertaining fight with both guys left it in that ring And as we've seen, guys get hurt. Sometimes they're not the same. So for me to, 6 weeks training camp away from my family, funding your own training camp, you got mouths you got to feed, man. When you messing with a person's money, you're messing with their family. You mess with their family, you're messing with their money. But you got mouths to feed. You got to pay your trainers. You got to pay for your training facility. You got to pay for your time in the facility. You got to pay for your food. You got to pay your nutritionist like you had. You got there's people you owe money to. So yeah, it's bad all around, man. That's all I can say. And hopefully this gets straightened out. But as it stands right now, like Leo just said, it's a bad sign. And now it's the whole buyers beware. But when you go with these unproven commodities on a pay per view, and I'm thinking like, what amount of money did they guarantee these guys? Because this, and I know Regis personally. I you I mean, what kind of money did you guarantee him? Are you because the only way you should be bouncing checks like that is if you're talking about both these guys got $7-8 million purses, and if that's the case, then you knew you was overpaying anyway. You knew you was overpaying anyway because you got to check the room. You know what I'm saying? You got to check the temperature of the room. If you're gonna have a fight like that, you got to do Vegas. You got to do someplace where it's gonna attract people. Texas, where the Mexican fans will come out because it's Williams Zepeda. You can't do it in Southern California. No, I mean, didn't they listen to Tony back in the day? So
Back in the day.
Okay, that was good. That was good.
That was good. Now, I'll tell you what, they are lucky that these guys don't go old school and send somebody over to collect on that check and some cash. I can tell you when my late father, was in business back in the day before you could really check on a check electronically. I mean, if they had somebody stiff them with a check or look sketchy, they would stand there and get on the phone and call the bank right in front of the customer and say, does this guy have money in the account? If a check bounced, my father, who weighed every bit as much and probably would have outweighed Tyson Fury by 20 pounds and was nowhere near as tall, he might just show up on somebody's front porch or send a friend of his to show up on their porch. I'm just saying, bounce checks used to be much more common. Now it's harder to get around. Again, who is writing paper checks to these guys? Excuse me, that's a red flag right there. If I'm Regis Prograis or Charles Conwell, first of all, where the hell's their manager? And somebody hands me a paper check and I'm going to say, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this? Transfer that damn money to me. Didn't they both make 7 figures for this fight? Didn't they both just make little above $1 million? No, thanks. That's bad news. And no fighter who has options should do business with them.
Absolutely. And we'll keep you abreast on the situation. And in terms of what Rougarou has had to say about Teofimo really over the past couple of hours, please go to Three Kings Boxing, the Facebook page. The video is up there right now. Apparently Teofimo has something to say, as well as his dad. And the clapback was pretty epic, as Regis has warned. I know we cool and all. We used to be cool, but if I fight you, I'm going to hurt you, and I hurt you bad. Again, go to Three Kings Boxing Facebook page where you can find the exclusive video from Regis in his IG Live. I'll go to you, Bo. Head of Media Relations for Three Kings Boxing, Cedar Ride for Three Kings Boxing. What's been popping in these 3KB streets in terms of the site and the latest and greatest, the latest for boxing information?
Oh man, all kind of things. Mike, you wrote an article on Kell Brook. He's having a hard time coping with retirement, and as expected, these fighters that rush, that adrenaline rush is something. And when it's gone away, and you still have that that fire that burns in your belly, it's hard to find something to turn that fire into at least at the very least a smoldering, smothering smoke. You got that. Zolani Tate, failing a drug test. You got that. Like I mentioned, Kim Clavel sick again. Remember, she got sick when she was supposed to have fought Jessica Gomez. I mean, I'm bad. Yosina Gomez. She called COVID. Now she's sick again in her unification fight coming up with Jessica Plata. Charlo and Terrence Crawford is going at it again when Charlo has a fight coming up, and you got Terrence saying Charlo is not on their level, his level, even on Earl Spence's level. You got that. This, all kind of things, going on. FA Jag Bay,
I know,
FA
I know,
Jag Bay,
I
Oscar
know,
Regis.
I know. What do y'all make of Jamal Charlo stepping to Bivol and challenging him?
I'm glad you brought
That's
that.
clout chasing.
That
It
was
was
just
it was, it
that
was
was
comedy hour.
Beeble looked
It
at
was
him
That's
like,
comedy.
clout chasing.
yeah, Beeble just looked at him like, yes, Bo, would you like, yes. Yeah. Like, huh?
175, right?
Are
160.
you talking to me? He just, Beeble looked,
Is Daniel Jacobs here? That's
yeah.
what-
It's almost like, yeah. Local fighter on him. Yeah.
You got that with Mike? Did you get that with
I
Mike?
got that. I got it.
Oh
I
my
got it.
God.
For those who do not
People
know,
just laughed him off.
um,
And that's
let me
exactly
give a backstory here, right quick, Gail, because I know what Bo's talking about. For some boxing fans who do not know, Jamal Charlo has a tendency to run his mouth. Both of them do, right? And they were at a fight. We're in Jersey, Meadowlands, or wherever the Nets play. No, Brooklyn, where the Nets play. And they was popping off at the mouth and talking about Jacobs and to some reporters.
Okay.
And guess who decides to show up? Daniel Jacobs. Oh, this the MF I've been looking for. And one Jamal Charlo went crickets, quiet as a church mouse, had nothing to say until Jacobs walked off, and then he started popping at the mouth. So that is what Bo is
Yeah,
referring
right.
to.
Yeah, that's what Big O. That's how Big O was looking like. Where's Daniel Jacobs? Daniel Jacobs here?
Oh, that was just straight clout chasing. I'm sorry. Like that's the bad thing. That's the bad thing about the Charlotte brothers. It's one of the things that makes them not be taken seriously a lot of times when they talk about what they want to fight, because they keep popping off at the mouth about everybody. Like they popped off at Canelo for what, half a decade, right about now, and both of them. But you keep doing this, you're gonna run into somebody like Jacobs, who's from an area where, say, like, you talk about me, you're gonna see me. And they got quiet really, really quick. And with Bivol, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You barely are probably gonna make the weight for 168 and be vibe of your mall. Yeah, Bivol can make 168 and he can make it comfortably. For everybody that has seen Bivol in person, he can make it comfortably, but why would he? For Jamal Charlo? Why would he? If it's Canelo, yeah, it's understandable. It's a rematch with Canelo. It's another big payday, and it's another set of belts that he can get undisputed. But for Jamal Charlo, I know all the Charlo stands out there. They're gonna gripe, they're gonna whine, they're gonna moan, because obviously Mel's gonna get the respect for being undisputed at 154. But at the same time, you keep doing things that make you look bad. In the end, people are going to not take you seriously, even when you have those accolades, especially Mel. When you have that accolade, you were undisputed. You were in really, really good fights. You've done what you're supposed to do. Maul, on the other hand, really hasn't. He's starting to fall off a little bit in the Demetrius Andre territory of him messing his own self in business. Like, this is a good thing to do. That, yeah, you get your face with the guy that beat Canelo, but you're not going to gain anything from it, because at the end of the day, you're not going to fight Dimitri Bivol at the end of the day, because Dimitri Bivol has no incentive to fight you. So if you're going to fight somebody, yeah, I might want to call Danny Jacobs, because Brooklyn people, they handle their business when you piss them off enough. And Jacobs is getting to that point, especially after that, what he went through with John Ryder in the UK. He's at that point where he's gonna pop off, even if he's not with Al.
I think the thing about that was the hypocrisy of Charlo, right? So when Bivol asked him, he was talking about some 168. Bivol was like, "You don't have a belt." Charlo, "Oh, no belt for attraction, just for attraction." Well, you didn't feel that way about David Benavidez. When David Benavidez didn't have a belt, you said there was no value in fighting that man. You didn't care about attraction with David Benavidez. He was like you told Mike Tyson, there's no value in it. That's what Mike was like. All right, here we go. Okay, damn, here we go. Right. So it was the hypocrisy of him doing that, and like you said, Daniel, Jake, that's like you said, Daniel. He's only talking to Bivol only because it's the guy that beat Canelo, so he feels, hey, this dude is hot. But is he gonna fight him? No, he's not gonna fight him. He just saw Bivol standing there, and he walked up to him, got a nice little photo shoot, with him. Made a little bit of noise. That's it. He doesn't even have a fight coming up. We know his brother's about to fight Tim Tszyu. What is he doing? Who is he fighting? You're doing nothing. You just sitting there. But I'm gonna tell you this. It's funny how he walks up on Bivol, but he's yet to respond to Janibek, who's been calling him everything but a child of God, and he hasn't said nothing about this guy. So it was the Charlos. At least Jamel has been fighting, but pretty much the Charlos, they're reaching a point where they're starting to get to that annoyance point. Stuff y'all doing is starting to become very annoying. Save it for the ring. I think we talked about this a while back. I think social media was good as far as to help get fights out. I think there's a lot of fights a lot of people don't get to see or talk about like we used to back in the day, and now you get to see and talk about them on social media. You get to engage with the presidents of the WBO and the WBC, and so you get to see women women boxing is being able to benefit from social media because a lot of these women fighters are on there. Layla McCarter, Ryan, a lot of these women, Sandy Ryan, a lot of these women fighters are on there. But in the same aspect, it hurts because these guys become popular on their social media and they have all these people backing them up. So it's like, why take this risk when I got all these guys backing me up? Or why take that risk when I got all these people followers that I could use to maneuver myself into title fights or big money fights and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, when are you going to do it? I believe Jaime Munguia may fight Bivol, which I doubt that. That's another one. But I would bet money on Jaime Munguia probably would fight Bivol before I believe Charlo would fight Bivol.
Mm-hmm. And for the latest on that situation with Charlo stepping to Bivol, or Jamel and Bud, or the back and forth between Tank and Haney and Shakur, folks need to go to where, Bo?
Oh, you can definitely go to threekingsboxing.com and you get all of that along with the backstory. But and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I love the sport of boxing. I just don't like what the sport that I grew up loving has started to become, what it's starting to become. Because like you just said, when we saw guys talking, and everybody remember the famous war hat with Marvin Hagler, these guys were barking at each other, but we knew they were fighting. We knew they barking, but they were fighting. It was a fight coming up after that barking, right? Like you said, we saw when what's his name? Trevor Berbick interrupted Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes wanted to fight him in the parking lot.
Excuse me for interrupting, Bo. Can we put a qualifier on that when it comes to that?
Yeah.
The dudes are barking and not fighting but the women are. Say what you want about Shields and Marshall. They talked a whole bunch of mess. They fought. Same thing with Mayer and Bumgardner. It'll probably be the same for Estrada and Valle, right? Serrano, Taylor. They're eventually going to fight again.
Well, women's boxing carries 2022.
The ladies are not just barking, but actually biting in the ring. These dudes,
I saw Gil out there fight. I saw Gil out there giving somebody a left hook.
That's right. Yeah, we're ready to go. The women are finally getting the platform they deserve, and they're seizing the moment. The rest of these young men, Bo, there you go again, actually remembering what they say and calling them to account. How inconvenient. There's somebody out there that remembers, oh, yeah, you said this a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and now you're saying this. And, they need to take responsibility for their own actions. But in fairness, this generation of fighters has come up under this social media spotlight, and they don't really know another model. Nobody's given them another path. They think this is what they're supposed to do. They see celebrities in other areas of life, some in sports, some in entertainment. The ones making big money tend to be the ones making the biggest mess, the biggest noise, acting up. They feel like they've got limited options, unfortunately. But they need to back it up getting in the ring. I will put up with a whole lot more yapping outside the ring if they are active inside the ring. Even Teofimo Lopez is more active. I'll give him a pass for injuries and so forth. And some of the other fighters who really like to talk a lot on ish, hey, if they're in the ring, I'll tolerate it. I'll tolerate it a lot more than I will from a guy, spending his money and otherwise sitting on his ass and sitting out. It's doing nobody any good. And the only way that
Teofimo's fighting Sandro Martin, that fight is happening on short notice. I wouldn't have expected that of Teofimo taking that Sandro Martin on fight on short notice, but he did. Gotta give him credit for that.
Not necessarily an easy fight. I'm intrigued by that fight. That's a bit of a risk for him. We don't know what version of Martin will show up. He was fighting against a diminished and a very, very unmotivated Mikey Garcia. But let's see if that skill holds up. We don't know.
Those kind of victories change you as a fighter.
They sure do. Yeah, he's going to be walking in there with a whole lot more confidence in his skills. And this could be a big mistake. But the adults in their lives, the experienced players in their lives need to sit them down and say, son, this is not the way to go. You can't substitute the attention for your athletic skills with, acting up on social media. That they're not equivalent sets of eyeballs. This does not do you any good. For God's sakes, if you're going to try to get some attention, why don't you go serve someone Thanksgiving dinner, at a local charity, or work with some kids, or do something decent instead of, I could go on.
That's not attractive though. That's not attractive though, Gail. That's not attractive. You know what I'm saying? Nobody ain't gonna watch them giving away free turkeys. You know what I'm saying? But they'll watch them acting a fool out on Sunset Boulevard.
That's right. No, they want to be in the Twitter wars and they want to get on TNC Sports. And you know what? We're all talking about it, aren't we? Here we are. Yeah. We're all talking about it. We could have talked about some of the other events, people, cooking meals and working with kids. And, even to his credit, Oscar De La Hoya every October gives a sizable donation in honor of his late mother toward breast cancer research somehow. And he coughed up, an endowment of $1 million last month. And we're talking about Charlo, getting in Bivol face. And, Bivol just laughs him off, and we should do the exact same thing.
Great.
Shout out for my day ones for the comments. He said, "Here, I'm gonna put it right back up." He says, "Both said it. Their idiot fan bases are the ones that support them, and they know that." Unfortunately, that is the reality. We think it's ridiculous and juvenile at times, but as long as people are support them, and as long as people pay to see the fights, they're going to continue doing it. They don't have any reason to stop it. It's not how we grew up watching the sport, and it's not really to certain protocol or code, but it's the unfortunate reality of boxing here in 2022. Let's move on to preview some fights here. I'm going to say the best fights for last. In England on Saturday, I think this is going to be on ESPN Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You got the return of Tyson Fury fighting Dereck Chisora, fighting for a third time. I don't understand why this. I do understand why this fight is happening again. I just don't like it. On the undercard, you have Daniel Dubois putting up one of his belts, WBA regular, whatever, against Kevin Lerena. Going to couple these two fights into one. Whoever wants to tackle them, please do, because I'm glad that Fury is returning. I'm indifferent towards this fight with Chisora. We all know what's going to happen. He beat him twice. He's going to beat him again. And Dubois, he's fighting Lerena. We all know what's going to happen there. He's going to beat him as well. So in many ways, this is a showcase for both men.
I'm more interested in Yvonne Mendy on the undercard. I like the fight he had coming up. I'm more interested in that fight.
On him for those who are unfamiliar with him, Bo.
You know, Yvonne Mendy's been around for a long time. Good fighter. You know, he's getting up there in age. Like, you know, Yvonne Mendy and Murata Mithyline kind of remind me of each other, right? They're fighters. They get up there in age and they just seem to get better. And eventually they're going to run into that one guy that's going to give it to them. But, you know, he's chasing the title shot. And I'm interested in his fight coming up more than I am the Daniel Dubois and Tyson Fury. I understand why Tyson Fury is fighting Dereck Chisora. Remember, that was the first guy that was targeted to fight him. Then he made a challenge to Anthony Joshua. Then a week later said they're taking too long, and then he sent the contract to the former WBA regular champion. I can't think of his name right now. It's drawing a blank. What's the former WBA regular heavyweight champion? I got his face in my head, but it's
Brian?
Well, no. Before Brian.
I can't. I draw a blank as well.
Muhammad. God, he did a video where he was walking with a tiger saying, "Tyson, I signed the contract." Manuel Char. That's it. Okay. Manuel Char. You know. So, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a good fight from a financial standpoint because and Gail said it earlier, UK fans love their fighters, and Dereck Chisora is loved. It's the reason why he continues to be a draw. I call him the ageless wonder. He continues to be a draw. They just love Dereck Chisora. Dereck Chisora is the guy that UK fans cheer for because they want to see him win. They know he's going to lose, but they keep cheering for him because they want to see him win. And then, of course, I definitely blame Joseph Parker because he could have put an end to this, and he didn't. He got beat by him. So now he gave Chisora more life by getting beat by him. But like I said, from a financial standpoint, if you're not fighting Anthony Joshua, and then of course Tyson Fury, he can't really move out of the country because of the passport situation from that investigation. So he can't really move like he wants to, which is the reason why the Usyk fight could, it's not probably going to happen until he gets that fixed. So, I mean, from a financial standpoint, if you couldn't get Joshua, and Dereck Chisora was your next best bet.
If you want to pick up where he left off, Gail, Daniel.
It's another fight of great domestic interest in the UK. You're going to fill Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is impressive. You know, if you can do that and these guys want to fight and the fans there want to see it, who am I to argue with it? You know, do we want to see it Again, in the United States, does it feel relevant to us? Not particularly. There's a lot of speculation that Fury is handing Chisora the opportunity because they're good friends. They work together a long time. It's kind of a thank you, if you will, to Chisora. But we're going to see the same sort of performance Fury put on against Whyte in Fast Forward. He took out Whyte in what, 5 rounds? Yeah, give Dereck 3. Maybe 4 if I'm feeling generous, right? The only question in my mind is, is Fury going to go in there and feel like playing with his food just for fun? Or is he just going to take care of business? That's the only question.
Sorry, I was on mute. I think Daniel's having technical issues, so we'll move on. Any word from anyone? Gail, Bo, in terms of the Daniel Dubois fight, or are you just like, what it's whatever?
It's the regular title. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's just, good for him for getting in the ring. It's stay busy. I never argue with that. Given the conversation we just had about Charlo, no shade thrown at Daniel Dubois for getting in another fight before the end of the year.
No, I can't throw no shade at Daniel Dubois. I mean, I can't. I'm gonna tell you why I won't throw shade at Daniel Dubois, because Daniel Dubois lost a fight where his eye was bothering him and he gave up. He quit, right? But he didn't come back with no excuses. He came back. He made a video. He said, "Hey, I got hurt. I couldn't see in my eye, but I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm gonna come back stronger." And when a guy accepts his loss like a man, like I wish some of these fighters would, and he accepts it, doesn't make any excuses, and then comes back, you know, I can't throw shade at it. I can't throw shade at the fighter that does that.
And those fights are going to take place in London. Again, you can see it here stateside on ESPN Plus in Glendale, Arizona, on the same later that night of December the 3rd. You're going to have third fight between Roman Gonzalez and Juan Francisco Estrada. But first, on the undercard of that, you're going to have the return of El Rey, Julio Cesar Martinez, going to fight David Carmona. And on paper, I'll see if Daniel's still here. If he is, on paper, Daniel, El Rey should have his way with him. He should piece him up. He should make this dude food. I think Daniel just went off again, so I'll go to you, Bo. On paper, Martinez should make food of this. Carmona should be food for El Rey, right? The problem is we don't know the physical status of Julio Cesar Martinez. Last time we saw him in the ring, he was not just losing, but getting outright beat up by Chocolatito. And in the months since that fight, he's had postponement after postponement, injury here, sick there. You just don't know where he is from a physical perspective. He should win. I think he will win. The question is, when it comes to this upcoming fight with Carmona, how do you think he will look physically? Especially given how that fight with Roman it was supposed to be at 115, ended up at 117, and he's moving back down to 112 pounds, 112, a weight that he doesn't have. It's not the easiest for him to make.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the mental aspect, because if he's not mentally right, then I don't care how physically peak he is. If his mental is not there, then he's not gonna he's gonna lose that fight. And the way he got beat by Roman Gonzalez can take something out of you. Then of course you start having injuries. The one thing about fighters is that, and it takes a well, strong-minded fighter. That's the reason why Floyd could fight twice a year. That's the reason why Canelo is fighting twice a year. When fighters are out of the ring for a long time, it's the worst thing for them, because their mind starts wandering. And once their mind starts wandering off of boxing itself, Earl Spence actually even alluded to this. This is why he he said going into the Sean Porter fight, he went at his top physical peak, because why? He drinking. He was drinking and partying because he had all this time on his hands. So he wasn't properly preparing himself for the fights he needed to prepare himself for. Um, Fighters, when they have too much time on their hands, the mental part of them start to wane a little bit, especially today's fighters, because we talking about social media and they're on it so much. They pay attention to it so much. Every fighter has said, "Oh, I don't care what nobody says," and that's a lie. Yes, they do. Otherwise, you wouldn't continuously get upset when somebody says something about you, right? Like these fighters live in response to people who only got maybe 10 followers. Like, they sit and argue with them, like Crawford does. Crawford would sit and argue with him. I think AJ did one of the smartest things. He gave him 5 minutes of time. Said, "Man, I'm out of here." Right? Um, Floyd don't say nothing to nobody, but you can't give today's fighters too much time off. So, and especially after coming off of a loss, type of loss he came off of, then he gets injured. Your mind starts to wonder. So I'm more concerned with the mental aspect, right, of El Rey than the physical. Because if he's mentally not there, I don't care how physically peak he is, it won't matter. So this is an interesting fight. If he still has his mental capacity of that capacity he had prior to the Roman Gonzalez fight, he's good because there's a guy lurking, watching you, and his name is Sonny Edwards. Now, he didn't think you could whoop me when you was mentally right. If you ain't mentally right, you're not beating Sonny Edwards. But Sonny Edwards beats you by far. Then of course you have the guy ranked number one. I think his name is Angel Garcia Lazaratias. He's ranked number one. He's chomping at the bit to get a piece of him. So boxers can ill afford to have anything shown that from a mental standpoint of them not being tough or strong, because that's when the sharks come out.
Let's move. Let's move. Let's move to the last fight, which is the best one of the weekend. And I mentioned that the third fight between Gallo and Chocolatito. They fought twice before. First time in basically 10 years ago now. Back in November 2012, down at 108 pounds. Roman defeated Estrada. Roman retained his WBA, this is junior flyweight title. They fought last year in Three Kings Boxing 2021 Fight of the Year. Estrada won a controversial rematch. I covered that fight. I felt that Estrada pulled it, edged it out. A lot of people disagree with me. I'm not going to push back against that because I can understand why. They run it back one more time in Arizona. Let's get the conversation started with you, Gail. In reading and checking out various message boards and social media things, social media pundits, you can actually find a preview of this fight on 3kingsboxing.com. It dropped earlier today. A lot of people, Gail, are going with Chocolatito in this third fight. I can understand why. I'll just say for the record here at Three Kings, in the fight preview prediction, have Roman winning by decision. What say you? The keys for this trilogy, this third battle between two of the best, absolute best fighters in the lower weight divisions for really the last decade plus.
I am thoroughly looking forward to this fight. And in my view, momentum is on the side of Roman Gonzalez. Yeah, we have to remember it wasn't all that long ago. We'll all kind of written him off. He had a horrible knockout loss to Srisaket Sorrungvisai. He lost his longtime trainer who had passed away. He was clearly not in the right mental frame. He lost a bit of his desire. And we were ready to say, good on you, man. You're on your way to the Hall of Fame. Have a great life. Not so fast. Not so fast. Gonzalez overcame it, found himself a new trainer, renewed his love for boxing. He's completely defied the passage of time, particularly because the smaller division fighters in general do not age as well as the bigger fighters. But guys like Roman and Nonito Donaire are busting that stereotype. So I'm not sure how long we're going to hang on to that. And his last fight, for which I was lucky enough to be ringside and very close to watch Martinez take on Julio Cesar Martinez. Yes, Martinez had to come up a division and took the fight on not real short notice, but he wasn't the intended opponent. We thought that might be a competitive fight. We're all waiting for Roman to look old in the ring. Didn't happen. Quite the opposite. Gonzalez absolutely schooled him. It was a master class. And I promise you, seeing it in person was even more impressive than anything you saw on the screen. Meanwhile, a few months later, Estrada schedules himself a tune-up fight in Mexico and barely survived a tough challenge from a Mexican journeyman named RG Cortez. He did not look great. Yeah, he won, but the momentum is all on Gonzalez's side, not Estrada's. I'm not saying that I think Estrada took a lot of punishment in that fight, but he had to work hard to get that decision.
Right.
If Estrada had had a definitive win over Gonzalez in their second fight, I might be saying something different to you all right now. But in my eyes, Martinez won that fight. I think we'll get a very lively, competitive fight. These guys know no other way to behave. But Chocolatito had nothing but upside recently. Estrada, in my mind, has struggled, and I think Chocolatito takes this by decision in what we're all going to be very lucky to watch.
I'll go to you, Daniel. Do you share Gail's assessment that Estrada not looking good in his last fight? To her point, he was made to work by RG, right?
Yep.
It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And he's also coming off of a bout with COVID. This fight is rescheduled because of that. And Roman has looked so good in the past year and a half, 2 years, that his second fight with Estrada, the following fight against El Rey, he seems to be rejuvenated at age 35. Is the mojo on his side heading into this third bout?
The sympathy is on his side because of recency. The main thing is that in their two fights, you could say the other guy won. The first fight, most people, including myself, think the Gallo won. Chocolatito got that decision. Second fight, most people thought that Chocolatito pulled it out late. Gallo got the decision. So now you have a situation where this fight has to be the end-all, be-all when it comes to these two guys because they've been circling each other for close to a decade. And to me, like the sympathy's there, but I think Gallo understands the situation. I think he understands that what he did against RG is not going to cut it against somebody like Chocolatito. So he knows he has to bring that stuff, and he knows how to beat him. He's done it. You can arguably say he's done it twice. So this is going to be a very, very good fight. And one thing to settle, because Chocolatito's career, it's settled. It's set in stone. He's going to Castaneda. If he retires this year, we're going to see him in 2027. Gallo's, even though his resume should tell you he's headed the same path, but because he didn't get the limelight that Chocolatito got until much later, he may not get that same praise. This is the fight that he has to win to get that praise. And I think Gallo will do it. I think Gallo will win. He understands the assignment. And I think he'll pull it out. It'll be a very fun fight. Neither fight has disappointed. But I think Gallo's going to pull it off on points. I could see it 116, 112 beat the Spurs.
Gallo can win, Bo, but he can't fight. He can't bring the performance. He can't fight in the way that he did in his last fight against RG. My concern with him, even though I felt he won that previous fight, I wonder whether his overall physical and mental state, right? Because if you follow him and check him on social media and whatnot, you kind of read between the tea leaves that you wonder if he still has the eye of the tiger, right? that's outside the ring. And a bad habit of his, Bo, is he has periods of inconsistency where uh at times he doesn't fight for full 3 minutes of a round. He can't afford to do that against a highly motivated Chocolatito. The key's here for both men. I think we lost. I think we lost Bo here. So I'll go to you, Gail. I think we lost Bo and Daniel. I'll go to you, Gail. Hopefully we get Bo and Daniel back. Your official prediction here. Who do you have winning decision? Any way of a stoppage? Your thoughts?
On Estrada and Gonzalez.
Right.
Yeah, as I said before, this will be a decision. I don't see a knockout. I think they'll both grind it out exactly as we've seen them do in the past. You know, the swings in performance in the first two fights were a matter of degree. You know, neither of them is going to win by a blowout. It's going to be close one way or the other. But I just can't see anything but Gonzalez pulling this out due to his recent momentum. And you pointed out, as I had failed to, you know, Estrada has had a bout with COVID. That has, you know, some fighters have, you know, come through that with no more effects than if they got a standard common cold. Others, you know, I think it really has affected their performance. And older fighter in the smaller weight divisions, you know, I think if it would sap anybody's stamina a little bit, it might be Estrada. And stamina will be a key component in this fight.
I see Daniel's back. Shout out to you, Mr. Bon Wee Wee. Thanks for listening. Make sure Bo's not run. I think he just having some technical issues, fam. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe like button, fam, if you have not already. Do us a solid and please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you do so, make sure with that subscription, you hit the all to make sure you get all notifications for Three Kings Boxing. Um, again, I know you. I see Bo and Daniel are back, so I'll go to you, Bo and Daniel. Your official prediction for this fight.
Daniel, you can go first.
All right, cut off a little bit. Are we still talking Gallo and Chocolatito?
Yeah, your official prediction.
Here's your prediction. Split decision, Gallo. I could say the Gallo scores are going to be 116, 112. And you're going to have 115, 113 for Chocolatito.
And as we get ready to sign off here, what say you, Bo?
You know, I was going to say, because you asked earlier. The thing about Gallo is he seems to have 1 foot out of the sport of boxing. I think he's looking at this fight like this might actually, the way I kind of feel, this might be the last fight for him. I mean, he kind of let his belts go. Taking too long to fight, kind of let his belts go. But I think they're fighting for the vacant WBC belt, so he gets a chance to get it back. Like you say, he fought RG Cortez. Now, the thing about that fight was even a guy that's been out the ring a long time shouldn't have looked at it that way. So it's all about that mindset, right? And we talk about this all the time. Chocolatito has regained that confidence. Okay, he got in there with Kaya 5, decimated Kaya 5. Then, of course, like you said, he got in there with Julio Cesar Martinez, and we saw what he did there. If Estrada does not bring the same energy to this fight that he used to have before, which was him being hungry, him feeling like he has to beat this guy, if he's not in desperate mode, he's going to have a hard time because Roman Gonzalez is fighting like he is in desperate mode. I like Roman Gonzalez for this fight. I think it's going to be a close fight. The one thing I will say about Estrada is Estrada's not an easy fight at all, period. So I think he's going to make it. I think, part of him will come alive. I'm just questioning, will that be enough for Roman Gonzalez? I can see Roman Gonzalez winning a split decision.
I'm going with Roman as well. Again, something Gail alluded to, kind of a combo here. Chocolatito has the mojo on his side. He's fighting in better form, and I have not liked how Estrada looked in his last fight. And again, I don't see the fire in the belly, that he brought to that first fight, where a lot of people felt he beat Roman in that first fight 10 years ago. I have not seen that from Estrada really in the past few fights, in the past year or so. So because of that, my pick here is Roman. Sorry, brother. We're getting ready to sorry, Bond. We're getting ready to head off here. Just send me a reminder early when we do a next episode, and I will drop you a link, or just hit me up on Pound for Pound Box Report on Twitter at P4P Box Report, and we can do some networking, and I'll make sure I'll get you a link and whatever, you can come on and chop it up with us next time on the next episode. So hit me up with a DM, Pound for Pound Box Report Twitter page, and again, we can do some networking, or Bo and I do a Twitter space, Three Kings Boxing Twitter space. You can check the both of us out there as well. We usually rock and roll and recap the week of boxing, usually every Sunday, 12:30 Eastern time. So you can chop it up with there. You can hit us up there as well. But again, my official prediction, unless Roman gets old in one night, I'm going with him by decision. And I think we're going to end things on that note. If you like what you've heard, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button, it'll get us, not only is it good for the overall algorithms, it'll get us closer to being monetized. I want to thank Bon Wee Wee. I want to thank my day ones. I want to thank Olaf for coming on, their comments and questions in the live chat. Begin the show with ladies first, going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, NY Fights for those who want to talk, The Sweet Science for those who want to talk media, or for those who want to check you out occasionally on TMZ Live. Let the folks know where they can find you.
My main hangout, as long as it's still up and running, is Twitter. Boxing Twitter. We're going to keep Twitter alive. I'm telling you right now, Boxing Twitter is going to save Twitter. So, and you can read my work at nyfights.com. nyfights.com. I am the West Coast office for our small but mighty crew.
I'll go to you, Daniel, from 4 Boxing News and the Inscriber for those who want to talk The Sweet Science for those who want to talk pro wrestling for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, folks. Okay. I am still on Twitter. Elon Musk hasn't killed it yet. But what's his name? That RAWKZ99. But I also set up refuge in both Mastodon and Hive, just in case. There's a catch us on there, because the way Elon's going, the only thing that's going to be saving Twitter is a general strike. But you have to wait and see.
Like I said when he came on, it's been a while since he's been on the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, but glad to have him back. Bo, the OG, head of media relations, senior writer for Three Kings Boxing. For those who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where to hit you up, and tell them all things 3KB.
Man, y'all know what it is, man. 3kingsboxing.com for the ladies who are going to support boxing. Of course, we starting to start pushing some traffic toward the 3 King Boxing podcast, but you can catch me and the HNIC of 3 King Boxing 2K on the Prodigy of Boxing Talk. And then, of course, you guys will be able to catch me right here on Pound for Pound. I definitely want to thank my man Daniel. Daniel be sending me these links on Instagram. He be sending me these links on Instagram, so I got to start getting on there more. I don't want him to think I don't see him. I see him, Daniel. I just see him late because of my work schedule. Definitely shout out to Gail. Like I said, man, it happened to been her on YouTube and going over to nyfight.com and checking out some of her work over there. Definitely appreciate it. Appreciate my man Mike over here, Pound for Pound. And just real quick, so my Mike, my 10-year-old son, he turned 11, and I'm starting to notice some things about him that I'm not liking. And one of the things that I'm noticing about him that I'm not liking is the little motherfuckers just like me. I'm starting not to like him because he's acting just like me at 11. He's acting like me now at 11, and it's beginning to get on my nerves.
Oh, revenge is sweet, my friend. I love it. It's tough when you're looking in that mirror.
I told my mom, I said, man, Junior's starting to get on my nerve. And she just looked, and she looked up, she said, there is a God. I said, you know what, woman?
Oh, you know what?
Oh, boy.
In all seriousness, holy cow. Those kids are watching us more than we ever know.
Yeah. I can attack. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Shout out to both. Shout out to the youngin. And shout out to again. As I try to mention during every episode. Shout out to everybody over at Three Kings Boxing. Again, as both said, the HNIC, 2K, aka Prodigy of Boxing Talk. Fellow senior writers, Bakari, Jarrell, aka Big Cool, and Red, who does a lot of work on the site, a lot of the editing behind the scenes when it comes to the articles that appear on the Pound for Pound Box Report website. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, you know what it is on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance, I'm looking to drop a couple of new fragrances on IG. But if you want to talk that stuff with me over there on Instagram, you can check me out over there at Brother JRSC. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Chocolatito Gallo 3. We will do a recap of Julio Cesar Martinez against Samuel Carmona. We will do a recap of the Tyson Fury Dereck Chisora trilogy, as well as the Daniel Dubois fight. And we may talk Yvonne Mendy, depends on how much time we have during next week's show. And we will also do a preview of Teofimo Lopez. I mentioned him briefly. He's fighting Sandor Martin on December 10th on the undercard of that. Big Baby Anderson, really promising heavyweight, fighting Jerry Force on that undercard. Tiger Johnson, Xander Zayas, Keyshawn Davis, Bruce Carrington, the prospect who I really like down at featherweight. They're all fighting on that same card. Those fights will be at Madison Square Garden on ESPN Plus. Also on the 10th, the return of Michael Conlan fighting a guy by the name of Garifi. And the return of Bud Crawford fighting David Avanesyan in Bud Crawford's hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. So we will do a preview of all those fights. And one more fight worth mentioning. The return of Josh Warrington fighting defending his IBF featherweight belt against mandatory contender Luis Alberto Lopez. So pretty loaded show we will have for you next week. Again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. Bon Wee, my day ones, Olaf the Almighty. Again, if you like what you heard, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. This has been for Gail from Communities Digital News and Why Fights, for Daniel of the Inscriber, and for Boxing News, Bo, head of media relations, senior writer for Three Kings Boxing. This has been episode 385. I'm your host, Michael. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good one. Good evening. Good night.